Legal News, 29th January to 4th February 2017 by Deepak, Miglani. Aircel requested Supreme Court not to shut its operations. Marriage under Hindu law not a contract, Delhi High Court. Government appointed 20 judges but skips collegium list for Allahabad High Court. Supreme Court directed filing of an FIR against Asaram for forging a medical document. Delhi court dismissed Arvind Kejriwal's plea in DDCA case. Government moved Supreme Court to enforce ban on 344 FDC drugs. Supreme Court barred petitioners from filing PILs against President. Curb false insurance claims, Supreme Court to government. Court in Delhi frees man, says alcometer not genuine. First conviction under Laundering Act, ex-minister jailed for 7 years. Supreme Court refused to stay Tamil Nadu's Jallikattu law. Magistrate cannot order further investigation at post-cognizance stage, Supreme Court. Delhi High Court summoned top officials over their failure to check rising air pollution levels in East Delhi's Anand Vihar. National Green Tribunal rejected residents' plea to shift Okhla waste plant. Medical engineering seats should not be based on single test. Supreme Court to government. Direction to King Edward Memorial Hospital to constitute a medical board to examine a pregnant woman for abortion, Supreme Court. Now, news in detail. Aircel requested Supreme Court not to shut its operations. Facing the heat of the Supreme Court, which threatened Aircel to shut down its operations if its parent Malaysian company Maxis and its promoter T. Ananda Krishnan do not appear before it in connection with the 2G spectrum allocation scam. The telecom company has requested the court that it had no control over them and it should not be punished for their fault. Marriage under Hindu law not a contract, Delhi High Court. Marriage under the Hindu law is a sacrament and not a contract which can be entered into by executing a deed, the Delhi High Court observed while dismissing a plea by a woman who had challenged an order refusing to declare her as the legally wedded wife. The woman had approached the court seeking her appointment for a job on compensate ground after the death of her alleged husband, a former sanitation staff in a city government hospital, and a direction to the medical superintendent to release consequential benefits and allow her to join duties. Government appointed 20 judges but skips collegium list for Allahabad High Court. The standoff between the government and the Supreme Court collegium over appointment of judges to Allahabad High Court continues, with the centre skipping a list of at least 24 recommendations made by the collegium. Supreme Court directed filing of an FIR against Asaram for forging a medical document. The Supreme Court directed filing of an FIR and ordered a probe against Asaram Bapu for forging a medical document on his health. The court refused to grant him bail in the sexual assault case of a minor after it found that a letter allegedly written by the Jodhpur jail superintendent that Asaram had lost control of his bowel movements had been forced. Asaram too admitted as much. The act cannot be let off merely by tendering an apology, the apex court said. Delhi court dismissed Arvind Kejriwal's plea in DDCA case. A Delhi court dismissed a plea filed by Arvind Kejriwal and five AAP members seeking a chance to be heard in a criminal defamation case filed by Union Minister Arun Jaitley. The finance minister alleged that they had made false and defamatory statements in a case involving the DDCA, thereby harming his reputation. The court may frame notice against the AAP functionaries. Government moved Supreme Court to enforce ban on 344 FDC drugs. The center moved the Supreme Court seeking to enforce a ban on 344 fixed dose combination drugs, challenging a Delhi High Court order which had last month overturned a government notification on the issue. The Health Ministry challenged the order against the notification which imposed ban on 344 FDC drugs including popular cough syrups based on codeine like Fansidil and Corex. The ministry had prohibited manufacturing and sale of these medicines in March last year, alleging they were found to be without any therapeutic efficacy or use. Also, there were concerns about misuse of such medicines considered unsafe for mass consumption. Supreme Court barred petitioners from filing PILs against President. Filing a PIL against President Pranab Mukherjee proved costly to the petitioners, with the Supreme Court barring him from filing any PIL in future in all courts, saying that no litigant could be permitted to browbeat or malign the system and the High Constitution functionaries. A bench of Justice Deepak Mishra and R. Bhanupati said that the apex court had clearly held in its judgment that the President of India cannot be arraigned as a party to a litigation, and they wrapped the petitioners, including one Miss Anidhita, for filing a plea against Pranab Mukherjee. She had sought direction from the court to declare that the president was not eligible for the post. Curb false insurance claims, Supreme Court to government, holding that instances of fake insurance claims have risen sharply. The Supreme Court has decided to frame guidelines to prevent filing of such false and fabricated cases. Taking serious note of fake insurance claims, the apex court has issued notices to all states and insurance companies to suggest steps to rule out such cases. Hearing a plea regarding false insurance claims in Uttar Pradesh earlier this month, the Supreme Court expanded the ambit and has sought response from states and other stakeholders to evolve a mechanism to curb such practice. Court in Delhi frees man says alcometer not genuine. Every electronic device, be it an alcometer, does not give 100% accurate reading and error is bound to occur, a court observed while setting free a man who was jailed in drunken driving case. The judge set aside a trial court order sentencing the man to 6 days imprisonment for driving an auto in a drunken state, saying there was no proof that the device used to measure alcohol content in the body was functioning well. The court said that the report did not even carry the signature of the challan officer and the person to whom it pertained, and hence the magistrate should not have convicted the accused. First conviction under Laundering Act, ex-minister jailed for 7 years. In the first case of conviction under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, a special court in Ranchi convicted former minister in the Madhu Koda government in Jharkhand, Hari Narayan Rai, for money laundering and sentencing him to 7 years of rigorous imprisonment and a fine of rupees 5 lakh. The conviction came 8 years after the Enforcement Directorate initiated an investigation against the minister in 2009. Rai was held guilty of money laundering to the tune of rupees 3.72 crore and was given the maximum punishment under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The court observed that in case the former minister failed to deposit 5 lakh in fine, the sentence of 7 years will be extended by 18 months. Supreme Court refused to stay Tamil Nadu's Jallikattu law. The Supreme Court has refused to stay the new Tamil Nadu law allowing Jallikattu, paving the way for continuance of the bull taming sport, but agreed to examine the validity of the legislation, which has been challenged by several animal rights groups. A bench of Justices Deepak Mishra and Rohinton F. Nariman, however, slammed the Tamil Nadu government for its failure to maintain law and order after protest in support of Jallikattu turned violent. Magistrate cannot order further investigation at post-cognizance stage. Supreme Court. A two-judge bench of the Supreme Court held that magistrate cannot order further investigation after the cognizance has been taken, process has been issued, and accused has entered appearance in response thereto. The bench comprising Justice Deepak Mishra and Amitwa Roy held that though the investigating agency concerned has been invested with the power to undertake further investigation, desirably after informing the court thereof, before which it had submitted its report and obtaining its approval, no such power is available, therefore, to magistrate after cognizance has been taken on the basis of the earlier report. Process has been issued and accused has entered appearance in response thereto. Delhi High Court summoned top officials over their failure to check rising air pollution levels in East Delhi's Anand Vihar. The Delhi High Court summoned the top brass of several agencies over their failure to check rising air pollution levels in East Delhi's Anand Vihar bordering Uttar Pradesh. A bench of Justices B.D. Ahmed and Ashutosh Kumar were shocked by photographs tabled by amicus curiae Kailash Vasudev, who visited the area for a spot inspection. Photos produced by the amicus curiae indicate a different story. Authorities at the ground level have done nothing. Therefore, before initiating contempt proceedings against the authorities and its official concern, we would like to know from them why action should not be taken against them for such behavior, the bench said. National Green Tribunal rejected residents' plea to shift Okhla waste plant. National Green Tribunal rejected an appeal by the residents of Sukhdev Vihar, Delhi to relocate the Okhla waste to energy plant. The resident had moved National Green Tribunal alleging that the plant was causing toxic air pollution in the area, which was taking a toll on their health. The tribunal imposed an environmental compensation of Rs 25 lakh on MS Jindal Urban Infrastructure Limited for polluting resulting from deficient functioning of the plant and its stack emissions which did not meet the prescribed standards. Medical engineering seats should not be based on single test. Supreme Court to government. Considering the enormous pressure on students faced to crack entrance exams for admissions to medical and engineering colleges, the Supreme Court asked the government to frame guidelines to do away with the present system of a single test deciding their future. Instead, 40% weightage should be given to results of the board exams and 60% for performance in the entrance exams while shortlisting candidates for admissions to such courses. The court said, it is wrong that the entire future of a student is decided by the higher performance in the entrance examination. Direction to King Edward Memorial Hospital to constitute a medical board to examine a pregnant woman for abortion. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court directed King Edward Memorial Hospital in Mumbai to constitute a medical board to examine a pregnant woman who sought the court's approval to abort her 23-week-old malformed fetus. A bench of Justice S.A. Bobde and L. Nageshwar Rao asked the hospital to file a report on the medical condition of the woman and whether she could be allowed to abort the fetus. The court said it would decide her plea after getting the report. The 21-year-old woman, identified as Mrs. X in the writ petition, pleaded to the court to allow her to terminate the fetus as it did not have kidneys and would be unviable. Thank you.